Hey folks, Dave Temple here saying Happy New Year. Yeah, I know we're well into the month, but I have fun saying it. Besides, I want to take this moment to tell you about an awesome lineup we have for you coming in the next several months. As you know by now, we launched Season 8 with one of my writing heroes, James Patterson, only one of the most prolific writers of the 21st century. Next, we take a turn, a legal one, when we welcome the wildly popular Scott Turow, author of Presumed Innocent, a runaway bestseller that also became a hit TV series on Apple TV. Plus, we're welcoming back for another visit superstar scribe and all-around nice guy Mark Graney, whose Gray Man series is yet another incredibly popular series. Then I'm proud to welcome first-time visitor but long-time listener Marshall Karp, co-creator with James Patterson on the NYPD Red series. This guy has a #1 bestseller on his hands, and I'm sure you're going to want to read it. And folks, that's just in the beginning few weeks. Plus, we're adding audiobook reviews along with TZ publishing trends and insights, chats with agents, box office scores of both TV series and films, and much more. So buckle up, Buttercup, and get ready for the Thriller Zone's Season 8, where we serve up stories that thrill. Welcome to the Thriller Zone podcast.
I'm always changing. I never know the ending. The ending is always in the outline, but that's never almost never the ending in the book.
See, this is funny because I always ask all the writers who come on the show, do you do an outline? Oh, I don't because I like to be surprised. And then the others, if I don't, I don't know where I'm going. So you sound like an amalgamation of that.
No, I want to know where I'm going, but I'm not stuck on it. And because you're writing something, all of a sudden you're really loving one of the characters you didn't think you would. Or one of the things I'll do when I do drafts, I'll do one whole polish. And I just look at every chapter. It went this way. What if it went this way? And that's where a lot of surprises come from. Oh, yeah, you were expecting that. And I was too, but we're not going to do that because we're going to change it.
Hello and welcome to Season 8 of your #1 thriller fiction podcast, The Thriller Zone. I'm your host, Dave Temple, and as you'll see, we've thrown on a fresh coat of paint, gotten a new headshot finally, and even brought in a band to create a new musical theme. All in all, a fairly handsome update to a show now in its 3rd year and about to launch with episode 211. Now, if you were around to catch our last episode where my wife Tammy joined me for our annual year-end extravaganza, then you probably heard how I shared we've got a whale coming to the new year. Furthermore, if you were listening to the episode just prior to that with my good friend Adam Hamdy, then you heard me tell a story about when I started the show, I had a dream list of 3 people that I'd love to have on the show, 2 of which were possible. One was not because he'd passed away several years ago. And the significance of those 3 dudes? Well, the guy I most dreamed of being back in the day when he was developing Jurassic Park was Michael Crichton. Why? Because I always felt he had it all. I mean, literally, he could write, produce, direct, plus he was an executive producer on pretty much everything he touched creatively. And sadly, he was taken from us much too soon. Dude number 2 was Don Winslow. Now, I'd followed Don and read so many of his books over the years and thought what a dream it would be to have him on the show one day. So imagine my surprise when I learned he lived only about an hour away and often frequented Warwick's bookstores in La Jolla, the next town over from me. Fortunately, I feel confident in saying that Don and I have become good friends, something I hold very dear. That brings me to dude number 3. Now, this guy was someone I discovered in the early 90s as I was flying back and forth from coast to coast, LA to my hometown back east, as I would buy one of his books each trip and read them in one flight. Now, he's a guy who, as I began to read him, seemed to be kind of the perfect combination of rapid-fire storytelling, great dialogue, witty one-liners, and pages that flew by, all chocked with mystery. Years later, would I end up reading nearly all of his books, watch many of his stories being turned into movies, and eventually, as you'll learn inside today's show, took one of his master classes in novel writing. That man is James Patterson, or Jim to his friends. Now, if you've been awake in the past 24 years, you've no doubt read any one of his #1 New York Times bestsellers. Whether it was an Alex Cross book, many of which would have been turned into other media forms, his Women's Murder Club, his children's books that cover a wide spectrum of entertainment like Maximum Ride, or his newest trio of characters featuring Holmes, Margaret, and Poe. Here in his latest thriller, Holmes is Missing. You must know there is something for everyone. So folks, kick back and enjoy a conversation that's being made possible thanks to an introduction of my good pal Adam Hamdy. And despite the technical difficulties we had here and there, this episode will certainly sit high atop my list of favorites. As you may have heard Adam and I talking about, I came this close to his show being my final episode. However, as I got to thinking about it, I think, I got a few left in me over the next few weeks. Heck, maybe the next few months. We'll see. So please welcome one of my heroes and easily one of the most successful fiction writers of the 21st century, James Patterson, right here on the Thriller Zone.
Hi. Sorry.
Oh, there he is. Perfect.
I thought you'd rather interview Maggie than me anyway. So. Hi. Maggie knows all my secrets, or many of my secrets.
Hi, Jim. Dave Temple. Good to meet you.
Hi. It says Tammy.
Tammy's my wife. She's got the Zoom account.
She's the boss, huh? All right. Okay.
I think you know a little something about that, right?
I do.
Well, it is so nice to have you on the Thriller Zone. This is an enormous honor.
Well, I'm honored too. Let's have some fun with it.
Okay. I'll do my best. Like I say, with very little time, I'll try to keep my fanboy to a minimum and my riveting content to a maximum.
Okay. All right. I'd rather you went the other way, but that's fine.
Well, it's so funny. I was thinking before we got on the phone, I said, I always vacillate between that line of be the transparent geek that you are or act as though you've been here before.
Oh, look at this.
Look
light.
at you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, life is good.
I can see you now.
Yeah.
Well, our mutual friend and one of your co-writers, Adam Hamdy. So I have him to thank for hooking us up.
Yeah. Adam's great.
What a good dude. And he said, David, I was like, any pointers? He goes, yeah. Get Jim talking about golf and you're good to go. I'm like,
yeah, no, not really. Yeah, but we can do. I will do one golf story. Weirdly, this makes no sense because I'm really not that good, but I do have 9 holes in one. About 4 years ago, my wife had 4 and I had 3. She's very competitive. She's a big All-American swimmer. And on February the 6th of that year, I had a hole in one, and she didn't like it. But she said I can live with it. 2 days later, I went out with her. I hit another hole in one with her 2 days later. And we're standing on a tee. Does she give me a big hug? No. Does she say, nice shot, honey? No. She looks at me and very appropriately says, you've got to be shitting me, which was absolutely appropriate comment. So,
you do realize the chance of that actually happening is to have as many hole-in-ones.
I don't know what the odds are. Yeah. Or to do 2 in 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Yeah. And I'm okay, but I'm not good. I get less good every day at the way it's going now.
Well, this is not what I've got a confession.
We have other things. We have thriller things to talk about, or whatever you want to talk about. Yeah.
Well, first of all, we're certainly going to get to Holmes is Missing, which is a riveting read. We're going to get to that. But Jim, I got to tell you something. 2 years ago, right around COVID time, I guess it was, I picked up a book called James Patterson by James Patterson, being the fan that I am. And as you can see, I did a little homework. And I confess that
they put little pieces of paper in there to fake it. Yeah.
No,
that's typical. Interviewers do that. I've seen that trick so many times before.
No. Because let me tell you something. I have handwritten notes in here because there are little things that you either encouraged me or you instilled something in me or you touched my heart or something. But my point is, I picked this up 2 years ago. I'm embarrassed to say I started it and never finished it. So I finished it last night, and it is easily one of the best autobiographies I've ever read. And I'm not just saying that. It's just so stinking good.
Stinking good. I like it.
Yeah. I'm going to circle back to it because I do have a closing comment to make about it. But I mean, there's just so many things and so many things that I share with you that I want to get to. But I do want to start off by saying,
well, it was another challenge to do it. I actually did it during COVID. We sort of stuck here. And we didn't go out and blah, 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 blah. And I just started writing down stories. And And I was liking it. I was enjoying it, and I thought the stories were pretty good. And it is not the typical autobiography because it is just story after story after story. Yeah.
Well, and what I liked about it most was the fact that this is a Captain Obvious statement, but it's in your voice. So it's very short, pithy, humorous, and so many poignant little points. And the brushes of fame that you've had.
Humorous thing is an interesting thing, even in terms of like, I do a series with Mike Lupica, Jane Smith, 12 Months to Live and then Hard to Kill. And it depends on what country in terms of what the titles are. And I love it. And, but I know that some people, some readers, I think it's really good. I think she's the best character, maybe better than I don't know, whatever, Alice Cross. But but some readers don't get it because they don't get the irony. They're very literal, and you go, man, I don't know, man. She's really funny. She's funny, and and I think some people they're just. When I was growing up in a town that I was in, I found that. Especially with my relatives, I would say stuff that I thought was kind of funny, and they would say, "Seriously?" I go like, "No, not seriously. No, it's kind of meant to be a little bit of a joke." And then finally, after a while, I just stopped trying to be funny. I just said, "Okay, well, they're not getting it, and they're very literal in this town, and that's the deal." And or at school, you get the kids, and they go, "You trying to be funny?" No, no, I'm not trying to be funny, and I don't want to fight you, so I'll back off.
How much of that? I mean, you grew up in a strict Christian, or rather Catholic. I grew up strict Christian. You grew up strict Catholic, and that has a way of really defining, refining, and turning you, doesn't it?
Not strict, and there was a lot of it, but it wasn't strict.
Yeah.
My mother taught in the Catholic school, but she wasn't strict about the Catholic side of it. I went to Catholic all the way through college. Even the college was a Catholic college, and just boys. So yeah, all that would have an effect. I think mostly it was good in terms of discipline. So I've become very disciplined, but it wasn't otherwise other than the discipline. I don't think it hurt too much.
Yeah. Well, it certainly helps form who we are, good, better, and different, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, my thing about anybody that goes into therapy, start immediately with talking about your mother and your father. Don't let the shrink will want to go like 6 months before you get into that. No, the first day, start talking about your mom and your dad. Not to blame them,
Right.
but whatever it is, they got the ball rolling there in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say between having a father for a preacher and the discipline.
Okay.
Yeah, that tells you a lot there, doesn't it, Jim?
What part of the country?
North Carolina.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just in North Carolina. Have you heard of Mr. Beast?
Oh, yeah, sure.
He's the biggest. Well, I just spent 3 hours with Mr. Beast on Saturday. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something together. We'll see. We'll see what happens. He just bought 100,000 acres in North Carolina. He builds these sound stages, and they're as big as football stadiums. It's just. I mean, he's 27 years old. He's stunningly smart, and just such an entrepreneur. It's just unbelievable what he does.
And what are you thinking about doing with him?
I don't know. We'll see. We talked about a couple different things. We'll see what. Yeah. I always like to listen, meet people. Creative artists, the agency, they bring me somebody to collaborate with about every week, and mostly, I don't know where this came from, but it's a quote that's been driving me for a couple of years now. It's not. I didn't write this, but I love it, and I think it's actually more valuable for 20-year-olds than it is for me. But the quote is, "My time here is short. What can I do most beautifully?"
Oh.
And I just think that's such a motivator and a focus thing, and kind of anything that comes my way, like a Mr. Beast, and interesting. I don't know if we'll do anything or not, but it's interesting. It's interesting the way he thinks. He has every one of his, for people who don't know him, every one of his videos has a bigger audience than the Super Bowl.
It's insane, isn't it?
It is. It's astonishing. I mean, the audience that he has is just it's amazing.
Well, I was reading about, of course, I know a lot about your collaborations with various authors and then the ones with the,
Well, tell me.
yeah, well,
Tell me.
but between
Tell me
that,
about these.
yeah, between them, President Clinton, but my favorite story, and I think it was probably highlighted in this book, is the one with Dolly Parton. That one was particularly special for some reason.
Well, Dolly and I have become really good friends, spent a lot of time with her. Her husband has dementia, and that weighs heavily on her. Um, and we just got to be, tremendous buddies. And during the first year, she called me on my birthday. The story's in the book, and she sang "Happy Birthday" to me over the phone. And what I wanted to do was say, "Dolly, I'm going to hang up now. I want you to call again, and it's going to go to voicemail. And then I want you to sing it again on voicemail, so I have it, And but I didn't have the nerve to do it, so I didn't do it. But and then we toured a little bit, and we were out in Austin, Texas, and it was about 7,000 people. And she said, "Well, Jimmy James, she called me Jimmy James. Jimmy James's birthday is coming up. So and we have a tradition. We sing happy birthday. So let's all sing happy birthday to him. So 7,000 people sang happy birthday to me. So, but it was and continues to be. I have my own little podcast on Substack, and I interviewed her a couple weeks ago, which was great.
Yeah,
A lot better than this thing, because she's a better person to interview than I am. So
I love I just recently started following you on Substack, and I love that new platform because it feels like you have more autonomy, more control, more power.
Well, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. They don't get away.
You don't have the algorithms beating you over the head. You don't have people threatening to take your stuff away.
No. They just say, go do it. Which is good. It's fun.
Yeah.
What I like the most about it is just the interviews. I just did. I don't know if it's just running now. Stevie Van Sant.
Yes,
he was the guitar or whatever for Springsteen, E Street Band, and then he was in The Sopranos for several years. Really fun interview. I enjoyed that a lot.
He ended up being a fantastic actor, didn't he?
Yeah, well, we talked about it, and he said, he did it on a lark, and he said, well, if it didn't work out, they'll kill me in episode 2, but they liked them, and he was good. Yeah, and then he did that series, I forget what it was called, about the mafia guy that goes to Norway to sort of kind of witness protection, which I forget what it was called, Lilyhammer.
Lilyhammer.
That was fun too. But he's a neat guy. I enjoyed it a lot.
And speaking
of Carville, that was a fun one.
Yeah. Boy, he's just wound out, isn't
he? Yeah, he is. It was good. It was a nice, but I really liked him. And they're like 20 minutes, so we get in and out. And
you know that we're super tight on time, so I want to make sure there's a couple of things that I hit. Okay. What? One thing that surprised me about you as I was reading is that you didn't.
Good writer are you? Because you thought I was just prolific. You didn't know that I was profound. Yeah.
I have learned not to use the word prolific, by the way.
Yeah, all right. You can if you want.
I know you hate that one, but
I love it.
It's not only, it's the fact that you didn't start out like I hear so many authors on this show say, oh, I wanted to write since I was like 2 years old, since I was 4 years old, but that wasn't your story, was it?
No, I wanted to write when I was 4 because I didn't know how to write. But no, I didn't. And I part of that was, once again, Catholic high schools or whatever. And they just gave us, that must be Clinton. They gave us just a lot of books that we didn't really want to read. It turned us off. And my thing about even, now with education, boards of education, if your objective is to get kids reading, do not give them books that turn them off. That's counterproductive, So I got turned off to reading, and then I got a job working at a mental hospital, worked my way through college, and I worked a lot of night shifts. I started reading like crazy, but it was all stuff that I wanted to read. And I was a little literary snob, so it was more serious fiction, Mr. Bridge and Mrs. Bridge were two of my favorites, and then Jerzy Kaczynski, nobody reads anymore. Steps and some of the Painted Bird, and that stuff really turned me on. And they were short stuff, which got me into the short chapters.
One of my favorite things reading was when you were studying, when you were doing this reading at the mental ward, and I kept trying to picture little Jimmy in a scene from like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, sitting in the corner reading his books.
Yeah.
And then,
well, a lot of the night shifts, mostly, not every night, but a lot of nights it was fairly quiet. And one of the things there were always most of the wards, there were usually a couple of people that were suicidal or on specials. Specials meaning that they would have one person who had to sit relatively close to them, but they'd sleep for the most part, and you just sit there reading and drinking coffee, and that's what really turned me on to reading books. And then I started scribbling, and somebody said, you're lucky if you find something you like to do, and then it's a miracle if somebody you pay to do it will pay you to do it. And that took a while. I mean, to really get paid. The first book I wrote, which won an Edgar, but I made like $6,000 or something. So even then, that wasn't going to pay the rent.
So how long was the jump between Thomas Berryman and Along Came a Spider?
I don't remember exactly. I don't know. I'm going to say 20 years.
Okay, but Spider was that real first big commercial smash, wasn't
it?
Yeah. Because
nothing I had done before that. I mean, everything was enough to keep me getting me published, but that was about it.
Yeah, I remember this because it was 92. I just moved from Chicago to LA, and I'm doing flights back and forth to North Carolina to see family, and I discovered Along Came a Spider, and I read it in one reading across the country, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got it to be able to write succinct, catchy chapters. And that's when I got addicted to you, and I read the entire series, and I thought I don't know how many people say this to you, so just forgive me if I sound like a cornball, but you really are the guy who ignited this fire in me to not only kind of start reading again, because the books were just so long-winded and repetitious and derivative. Number one,
there is a lot of that, long-winded and whatever.
Yeah. And then
and that's catching on again now, the long-winded stuff. And it's not good. It's not good for getting people wonder why book sales are down or whatever. And a part of it is just so many books are put out there that, nothing against Oprah, but it's interesting with the writers that she picked. Almost invariably, they would read that one book, but then not read the next book from that person. That's not good. That suggests that it's sort of questionable what you're. Obviously, people were loyal to her, but and even with some of these book clubs now, you read them and you go like, really, this is it, and it turns people off rather than turns them on, which I don't think is great, but so be it.
And I want to drill down on this for a second, Jim, if you're cool with it, because here's there's a lot of people that go, oh, Jim's not a writer, he's too commercial. Yeah, he's just popcorn. But I'm like, there are dozens.
I don't know what the hell that means. You read some of this stuff and it's supposed to be profound, and you go like, all right, let me just. And sometimes the language is quite good or interesting, and you go, but what did they just say? And you go, that really isn't that profound. I don't know why people are. And I think a little piece of it is, and this relates also to how I'm seen, and that depends on the country. Like in England, they're just kind of thriller and mystery fans, and they're not ashamed of it. It's like, their books are, and some of them are really good, and you don't have people where they feel they have to apologize. I don't like that whole thing of like, nobody should ever feel guilty about reading a book. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to feel guilty about. That's not one of them.
I'm going to go ahead and finish this thought with a slight slam, and it's because of this. So many books come across my desk, and the writing is so, I don't know what the word is, but it goes on and on and on. I'm like, I got it about the third sentence. So the fact that you're using all this great floral and poetic stuff, and I'm not taking anything away from some of the great writers, but I'm like,
some of it, like James Lee Burke, who wears flower and whatever, but he's great.
Right.
But there's a point of
where maybe it's the old gray matter is just crumbling or it's short attention span, but I'm like, I want to get in and get out, kind of like a good movie or a good TV
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, or you've read it before. I can't tell you how many times I've picked up books and put them down because the first scene, woman running through the woods being chased.
Right.
I don't know who she is. I don't care about her. I mean, I might care about her if I knew more about her, but I don't. Woman gets caught and either, gets knocked out or die, whatever the hell it is. And I don't want to read the book.
Yeah.
Stop already. I hope I haven't written that scene. I probably have somewhere along the way.
All right, I got to back up a second. So I was talking about how I got turned on to your books and so forth. The second point was when these cats out of, I want to say New York, started this thing called Master Class. I heard that you were going to be on there. I took that Master Class, and it was like having my own private tutor. That thing was amazing. I'm like, I encouraged everybody I knew, any writer I knew, like, dude, just drop the $100 or whatever it was and take that class. Did you like that experience?
Yeah, it was great. It was one of these things you get approached to do things and you go, eh. One of the things they did is right off the bat, they put money up and you go, okay, well, this is for real. It's not just somebody's total pipe dream. And then the guy they brought in he was a documentary director. He'd been nominated for a couple of academies, so he was very good. And I really shot for a couple of days. It was very pointed, and they were great to work with. And then it went out there, and I don't know. I mean, it's been a while now, but for the first, actually, it was the first one they ever did.
Mm-hmm.
They then Serena Williams after that, and a few other. They got a bunch of people in the first year, but the experience was terrific, and they studied everything that's being done on there, and for years it had the highest rating of anything that they had on there. I don't know if it still does or how it rates anymore, but at the time it did, and people found it useful.
Yeah. Well, I found it terribly useful. Hey, Jim, real quick question. What do you think do you have, out of all these books, all these series, all these awards, what's that one accomplishment that, you'd say, I'm the most proud of this?
Well, I like the fact that it's the breadth of the work. I mean, the Alice Cross, a Women's Murder Club, Jane Smith, I mentioned, kids' books. Which are very different. I Funny, Middle School the Worst Years of My Life, Maximum Ride. I mean, the breadth is unusual to say the least.
Yeah.
The autobiography, some of the nonfiction, Walking My Combat Boots, ER Nurses. Those are really, I think, valuable books. I do this with Matt Eversman. Matt was the actual sergeant portrayed in that movie, Black Hawk Down. He's a good friend of mine down here. Ex-Ranger. And our mission, for Walking My Combat Boots, was that if you've been in combat, you would say Eversman and Patterson got it right. And if you're one of these people that likes to BS, that you really understand things you don't, you would read this and say, okay, I really didn't understand the military, and now I kind of do. Or ER Nurses, you would go like, oh my God, I don't know how anybody does that job. It's so intense. We just finished one on teachers. And once again, I want people to read it and go, damn, I mean, it's unbelievable. How can anybody be a teacher anymore? Because the pressure, you've got the parents who are out of control. You got the kids who are out of control. You've got the left coming after, you got the right coming after them. You've got the school, and telling them how to teach.
Yeah.
So it's just very, anyway, so I love that particular that thing. I love doing the kids' books. I'm not doing as many now because it just got complicated in terms of stores. We just won't stock kids' books.
Yeah. And along kind of a similar line, because I'm always fascinated by this, who would you say along the road has given the best advice to you that you went, that's
my grandmother. No, my grandmother was the one. She was the one. She said, look, I know you like to play basketball. You're not going to play in the NBA. You can't go to your left. Really, Grandma? How'd you know that? You never guarded me, but you're right. But she was, different things like Hungry Dogs Run Faster, which was one of her things. And go out and chop the wood. But she basically said, look, you put your mind to it, you can do most things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And she believed in me. My dad came out of he grew up in the New Brick poorhouse, and he's a very bright guy, but he didn't have a lot of confidence in himself. So he wasn't one to sort of like, well, go take chances. He was like, well, why don't you just get a regular job at an insurance company? And, so that wasn't good advice. But my grandmother was the big one. Yeah.
Is that where the title for your Substack came from?
Yeah.
It's so good. Well, I want to make sure I hit Holmes is missing. The one thing I loved about this book is that, it's classic Patterson, short chapters, swift reading, perfectly timed hooks, peppered witty one-liners. It's just one of your greatest reads. I know it's already available.
It's a fun, this is the second one. It's just a fun idea. The idea that you're going to take the talent and the skill set of Holmes, Marple, and Poe and put them in one book, but it's contemporary. Right. And these are people who either are descendants of well, in Poe's case, Poe, in some cases, the characters, or the writers and the characters who write. And I just thought that was a fun idea. It's kind of like a literary Avengers or something, So I love the idea of it, and I thought it turned out really well. And my partner in there, Brian, says, Brian is like spectacular. And the guy had never written any fiction until he was like 68 years old.
What?
We did a kids, a TV show together, which won a bunch of Emmys. But he had never done any fiction. And I said, well, let's try. So I did one when I was doing the book shots, the novellas. We did one together. And I've been writing with him since. He's just great. He's one of the best collaborators I have.
And that's something I'm curious. Jim, how do you find your collaborators? Is it strictly you going to them or them coming to you, or?
Or just people that in terms of like President Clinton and stuff, that's a whole different thing. Sure. I do have a lot of people now who come and want to collaborate, but in the beginning, it was a lot of people that I'd worked with, some in advertising, like Brian Sitz was in advertising, and people that I knew they were pretty good writers. Peter DeYoung was in advertising. When I did the book shots, I wasn't pretty good at solving problems. I just went out. One of the things I did because I was doing like 3 a month,
right?
Novellas. That was the year I did 2,700 pages of outlines and two full-length novels. But one of the things I did, there's I forget the exact title, but it was a best mystery short stories of that year, the next, whatever the hell is. And I just went through and started reading the short stories and picking out people who I thought would be good collaborators, like Andy Burrell, who I've done some of the Texas Ranger stuff with. I just read one of his short stories, and I called him up. I said, I don't know, you want to try something? Because you're good. Yeah.
And so it's really that easy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could work with most people and get something done. I did a couple with Masterclass where we went out and they just put the word out and people wrote an idea in a chapter. And I did 2 of the novels with. I don't think they really worked out great, which surprised me because I taught them how to do it, but they didn't listen.
I was going to say, between teaching them how to do it and then the fact that you're such a specific outliner, I would think it would be kind of a layup.
It's certainly, it's every once in a while it fails, but it's rare. And sometimes it's just because the person doesn't really want to do it that way. And that's okay. But you have to go by yourself now. Yes, the outline starts everything, but this isn't a stick to the outline thing. I'm always changing. I never know the ending. The ending is always in the outline, but that's almost never the ending in the book.
See, this is funny because I always ask all the writers who come on the show, the old classic, everybody hates this phrase, plotter and pantser, but do you do an outline? Oh, I don't because I like to be surprised. And then the others, if I don't, I don't know where I'm going. How can I find a trip if I don't have the map? So you sound like a kind of an amalgamation of that.
No, I want to know where I'm going, but I'm not I'm not stuck on it. And yeah, because you're writing something, all of a sudden you're really loving one of the characters you didn't think you would. Or one of the things I'll do when I do drafts is I'll go through, I'll do one whole polish, and I just look at every chapter. It went this way. What if it went this way? And
Right.
that changes everything. And that's where a lot of surprises come from. Oh yeah, you were expecting that, and I was too, but we're not going to do that because we're going to change it.
Yeah. We'll be back with more of James Patterson here on the premiere of season 8 right after this.
Holmes. Reliably brilliant and dangerously unreliable. Poe. A man of action with secrets that will tear his team apart. Marple. The one holding all of this together. And the greatest mystery is if this team, Holmes, Marple, and Poe, will survive.
And now back to the show. You know, it's so funny. I was talking to some friends who I said you were going to be on the show, and they said, how do you suppose he comes up with all these ideas, and do you think he'll ever run out of ideas? And all I could say was, do you ever run out of ideas of things that you would enjoy going to do? No. Then, why would you, if you have any imagination at all?
Yeah. No, somewhere in the background there is a big box, and it's about this thick with its clever title, Ideas on it. It literally says Ideas on the top. I'm going to change. God damn it! I'm tired of that. I'm going to say something else there.
I think it was CBS did an interview, and they went into your office, and you had all these sliding drawers, and I'm like, yeah, is that basically the idea box?
The idea box is literally a box. It's somewhere back there. When CBS came, I think I was doing the book shots, and those drawers were all filled with, I can't remember what we did that year, like 45 novellas. It was nuts.
I always thought that was a brilliant idea.
Oh, well, I thought it was a good idea too. It's, the publisher was really afraid of it. And my thing was, look, this is a good thing because there are a lot of people out there that they want something they can finish in a couple hours, and that's okay. That's not going to put books out of business. That's going to just make more people read more.
Right.
Because a lot of people, that's what they got. I got my 2 hours, man. That's all and now, the attention span keeps getting less. When I was going out with Clinton, he'd said that, the attention span of a butterfly is 9 seconds.
Yeah.
Human seconds, like that.
It's a sad commentary on us all. And I think it has to do with a combination between this little gadget that you're always scrolling on. And
I don't touch it. I don't touch the bastard.
No?
Car if I'm going out, just in case, I break down or something, but I don't do any of that.
I think if we could stop and realize how much time we do this, and we could capture it all back in just one day.
They'll never do it, but you know how they'll do this stuff on you count your steps and all this crap on the phone or whatever. They could do that where you could go like, you have now wasted 6 hours of your day, jackass, or whatever. Or at a certain point where you can set the phone to, okay, you've used your 2.5 hours, and it just goes off, and it won't go on again until tomorrow.
Well, there is an app that does.
Is there an app that does?
There's an app that it doesn't turn it off, but it says, you run out of your spare time. But I like your touch in that it'll just shut down.
Shut down and give you a shock.
Yeah. And then not come back on until like 24 hours later.
And give you a shock when it comes back on too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Well, as we start to wrap up, there's a couple things. I got like 3 closing questions. The first one is not about writing, and it's
that's like an honest thing. Most people, like journalists, podcast people, they say one more question, and then they keep asking. At least you're honestly saying, I have 3 questions to end this thing. It's very good. I'm very, very impressed and proud of you. Go ahead.
It is only 3. I might squeeze in an extra one, but yeah. Number 1, if you could go back and do it again, because we started off the show with this, and you could master it the same way that you have mastered a profound writing career, could you ever see yourself as a professional golfer? Would that have been a cool dream?
No. Don't have it. Just don't have it.
Easy. Number 2, if you and Sue, by the way, loved reading about your wife, Sue. That is a love story, folks. You want to read a great true blue love story? Again, see this book.
It really is. I'm lucky you're semi-smart about, whatever. One of the lines in the book is, if Sue ever leaves me, I'm going with her. And there's truth to that. Yeah. So she doesn't hold the same thing though.
I think she does.
If I leave her, good riddance.
Listen, true story. 2 hours ago, over coffee with my wife, I said, Tammy, come in here. I said, read the last sentence of this book. She read it. A tear came to her eyes, and she goes, just like us. And I went, that guy's a little softy.
Yeah. No, I think appropriate about. I mean, it can be hard when you have to be, and because the world, if you don't, the world's going to just beat your brains in. But mainly, I think that's a big thing about writing too. That you can pull back and be very rational about things, but heart and mind, that they're both working. And if it's supposed to be emotional, and you're not afraid to be emotional. I mean, that's another thing about a lot of modern stuff. Well, you're not supposed to be emotional. Why not? What's that all about? I don't, says who?
I call bullshit on that.
It's one thing for somebody to write their book the way they want to write it, but it's another thing to sort of lay out. And you hear it all the time with movies, where they'll sit there. What the hell is the one? The Conclave, where they insist on putting the reviews in the first paragraph that, it's kind of a pot boiler. I mean, because there's a little bit of a plot to it, and that, then that's a bad thing. I don't know, whatever.
Here's number 3. Oh no, I went off on Sue. Number 2 here. You and Sue going to join Tammy and I for a dinner party. This is one of my favorite questions. I just find it fascinating. You get to invite 2 friends to join us, so it'll be 6 of us.
Just invite you and just bring 4 friends that we like.
It's gonna be. You and Sue going to join Tammy and I. You're going to invite 2 people, living or dead. Who would they be and why?
I'm going to invite Lupica and his wife because they're really cool and we love them. And, I just assume rather than taking chances on, Shakespeare and his boyfriend, or I don't know, I don't know. I'd have to think it through a little bit, but, Will and his Marlowe or who knows. And you're like, you know what? I can't understand a word you goddamn saying. It seemed like a good idea, but, and you speak in, rhymes, and it's too much for me.
Yeah. All right. Last one here. Standard close. What is your best writing advice to future writers?
I never give advice. I don't. In the master class, I even say that. I say, like, I'm not here to give advice. I'll just tell you what I do. You want to make money. The laws of real estate: location, story. Tell a story, man. Tell a story. Don't waste it. Don't waste time. Don't waste my time. Tell your story.
On that point, and referencing an earlier conversation we talked about, do you remember reading? Well, I know you're a fan of Bonfire of the Vanities by Thomas Wolfe, like me, but by the time he got to the Man book, I can't remember.
Or whatever. Well, yeah. The one they made a miniseries or something down in Atlanta.
Yeah, which was not great. Did you ever say to yourself, going into a room, describing the room, giving me the background of the room before you actually get to the action, does that ever get on your nerves like it does mine?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, occasionally somebody is so good, you just go, I don't care. They're so good. I just love reading it. I'm in the room. It's true. It's just feeling. It's just right. Yeah. So sometimes, but mostly, not so much. No. I did love Bonfire and, a couple of his other things, but he can also get off and be so wordy. And not my cup of tea. A lot of the stuff he did.
Well, I think it was interesting as we wrap. I think it was interesting. I've learned 3 things that we have in common. Number 1, we're both big Don Winslow fan.
Mm-hmm.
And he lives right up the road from here.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. And he's sort of fake retired. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe it, man. He's coming back. He can't leave us like this.
I keep saying the same thing. I talked to him the other day. And I'm like, dude, is that real? Dude, I said it. I'm retired. I'm like, but you guys, you're still young. You got so many stories to tell.
Yeah. He's very good. He's very good.
Number 2, you and I both shared a scare of prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm fine. But part of it is do the test. I'm still doing the test. If something came up, the last test, it's fine. But they pick stuff up, and you want to, do the colonoscopy, do the prostate,
Yeah.
Oh, if I just taken the test, I wouldn't be dying now. You don't do that.
Yeah. No bueno. And number 3, I learned just yesterday, your son and I, Jack, we share the same birthday.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, okay. Well, the next time when February 7th, is it the 7th?
8th.
8th. So close. uh, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind getting the presents a day early. It's fine.
Yeah. Happy birthday a
all right.
month from now.
All right. Well, I'll remember that, Tammy.
Yeah. Thank you.
This was terrific. Good for Adam. And you see Winslow say hello. I'm a massive fan. And he really pisses me off by not writing any more books. I can stare at 3 of his books right there in my thing. I can't read them. But
do you have a favorite of his, by the way?
Most of them. The last trilogy, not as much as the earlier stuff. But yeah, a lot of it. The cartel stuff, those were long. I mean,
yeah.
How do you write a book and kill like 40,000 people in one book? But he got away with it. No, some of the I'm bad in remembering. The one they made the movie with Oliver Stone, I liked Savages.
That was great.
I forget some of the ones, long titles with somebody's name in them. I'm bad. My memory is bad for
The Cool Breeze on the Underground, things like that. Yeah. Anyway, well, folks, his book is Holmes is Missing. Of course, I want to throw this out here. I'm going to say this as though Jim's not still sitting here. This is a book, The Stories of My Life. You got to read this. There's 2 things I want you to leave this show thinking. I want you to, well, 3. Okay, you got to read Holmes is Missing. You got to read this autobiography, and you got to go take the master class, for crying out loud.
Well, that's a lot of good stuff.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
David. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Damn it. Why did you set that up? Oh, my God. Jesus. Oh, no, he's still there. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. Oh, that's so good. Man, oh man, how much fun was that? Now that is a way to kick off a new year. Happy 2025. Only one of my biggest heroes in the world, prolific writer, funny guy, and if the dadgum technical issues weren't what they were, we could have had a little bit better audio and video. Mr. Patterson, Jim, decided he wanted to do Zoom, which I never use Zoom. I hate Zoom. Zoom sucks. There, I said it. But, he needed it. That's fine. I use Riverside FM. I'm not getting any endorsement money for that, although I should. But boy, we would have had 4K, high def, could have switched cameras back and forth, superb audio, all that stuff. Folks, that's just me being a perfectionist. Can't help it. Just kind of the way I roll. But man, what a fun time, and a funny guy, and a prolific writer. All right, now that is a way to kick off the new year. And as you now know, our shows are dropping on Thursdays. That's 2 a.m. Pacific, 5 a.m. Eastern. We like to get a jump on things, but welcome to our Thriller Thursdays. Now you're thinking to yourself, Dave, can you top that? Well, I'm not exactly sure I can top it, but I can get pretty darn close. Scott Turow. You know this #1 New York Times bestselling author. Remember the book, Presumed Innocent? I don't remember when I read that, but it was a long time ago, and I loved it. And it got turned into a TV show with Jake Gyllenhaal, and you can see that on Apple TV Plus, and I think Amazon Prime, too. But his new book is called Presumed Guilty, and we're going to be talking to Mr. Scott Turow 2 Thursdays from now to discuss Presumed Guilty. Now, you may be wondering, Dave, why are you not on every Thursday? Well, to be honest with you, and I mentioned this earlier, there was a moment when I was hanging out with Adam Hamdy right there around Christmas time, and I said, dude, this might be my last show. And he's like, no. Anyway, long story short, he said, anybody you haven't had on? I said, yeah, James Patterson. That would be a dream come true. And he made a call, and it happened. So huge kudos for that. But what I am saying is, the energy from my prostate cancer treatment has taken a little wind out of my sails. Now, I am coming back around, and I'm very happy to say that I'm currently cancer-free. But my energy isn't quite what it was these last 3 years. So what I'm doing is I'm just pacing myself. Tammy says, Dave, why do you work so hard? I'm like, good question. So this is the old boy just saying he's taking a little breather, taking it easy. What I really want to do is I want to spend more time with each show. Banging them out every week. You gotta read the book. You gotta make your notes. It's a whole lot of work. But this way now I can just spend a little more time and care and attention to the books. Maybe part of it is just the books that I want to read. Part of it is I want some real hitters in here. I'd love to help everybody in the whole world. I really would. I just don't have the time and I don't have the energy. The biggest reason I don't have the time? Because I am working on my own books. Yeah, I've got a nonfiction book. I think I've told you about this, about my journey through prostate cancer. And that is going to be hopefully coming out. Man, I'd love to have it come out this spring or summer. Who knows? I'm not in control. But I will say, if you know anything about me, if I can't get some control on it, I may just put it up myself. Anyway, either way, I'm working on that one. Plus, I have a fantastic thriller I've been working on for over a year, and I think I'm getting close. That is going to be coming out, let's hope, sometime this year, if not this into this year, first of next. But you know me, I got a few irons in the fire. I've also got a little screenplay project I'm working on. God, I would love to make another movie. I made a movie years back, as you know, Chasing Grace, and it was quite a journey. Just about took everything out of me. Don't ask Tammy about it because she'd like, what? But anyway, we'll see. It's a pipe dream. But folks, thank you for joining me for this launch of Season 8. We have rolled through 3 years. We're going into our 4th before you know it, for crying out loud. 211 episodes. Scott Turow will make 212. And then, boy, have we got a February lined up for you. Anyway, I'll tell you about that later. I'm going to scoot on out of here. You make it a great day, and I look forward to talking to you soon. If you have any questions or concerns, you want to get in touch with me, thethhrillerzone@gmail.com. If you can't remember that, you can remember my website, thethhrillerzone.com, and just hit the contact button. Of course, you've got to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Guess what? YouTube.com/thethhrillerzone. Follow us on X if we're still there, The Thriller Zone. On Instagram, The Thriller Zone. Facebook, The Thriller Zone. LinkedIn, The Thriller Zone. See a recurring pattern here? Thanks again to Jim Patterson. Wow. Yeah, boy. I'm going to be living off of the high for that for some time. Anyway, like I said, Dave Temple here, your host. I'll see you next time for another edition of The Thriller Zone. Just one thing before we go. I have a very special announcement that is available right now. Many of you have asked if you could promote your books on The Thriller Zone. Well, now there is. For a limited time only, if you'd like to promote a current or upcoming release in either a 30 or a 60-second commercial, you can do so right now. Just contact me via our website at thethhrillerzone.com and hit the contact button. Let me know if you want a 30 or a 60-second spot. 30s are only $99 and 60s are only $150. Again, this is a limited time offer. So if you have a book you released yesterday or will release tomorrow, contact me right now for this limited time offer and we'll get your book on the entire back catalog of shows. Then get ready to share your stories that thrill.